I want to talk to you about the violence that's going on right now and rampant drug use. MTA.
Okay, that's John Phillips, RINO Radio, along with Randy Wang. That sadly is the problem because these boys are intelligent, they're funny, they've got the snarky. Close, try to get it silent in here in studio car. They've got the snarky remarks down. They do have a command of the issues to a certain extent, so they can't claim willful ignorance with this complete Valentine love affair. They ought to get a room with TracI Park. He's talking about, well, according to my friends in Venice, it's just like magic what happened. Okay. KABC, Disney-owned Cumulus Radio. Okay, they're not going to tell you about the dirty Roger Mahoney pedophile protection racket that Steve Lopez did 12 years ago, 11 years ago, 10 years ago. They're not going to connect you to the meth Mike Bonin, now TracI Park Bonin, St. Joseph's Center on Hampton, which is certainly not the religion, as Randy knows. As Dr. Drupinski knew years ago when I was on air with him and Leanne Tweeden, and in 1 minute was able to name names, to the point that Katie Grimes, who I had never heard of, who's the editor of the California Club, and similarly an intelligent, talented young woman of a certain generation in that coterie, in that little circle of approved, quote-unquote, supposedly conservative media elite. But they just want to pump you that fear porn about the homeless one way or the other. And the unaccountable by tactic, the self-reported programs that have been, of course, issued by National Catholic Reporter, Board, Source, Guide Star, Nonprofit Quarterly. TracI Park did absolutely nothing. John Phillips, listen up, John. Listen up, Johnny don't like truth. Listen up. Johnny like poverty, Pimp, protection racket. Fake news, RINO Radio, listen up. Minnesota activist drug house Becky Dennison, who's one of the owners of the Boardwalk Freebie 20-unit Horizon Apartments LLC, the most serially violent single address in Venice, year after year after year after year after year. Hundreds of individual officers have been deployed there. Our officers, and when I say ours, you can misconstrue me as being anti-police, but I put this body between the Pacific Division rank and file in real danger. During these, also, Becky Dennison, and we'll get back to that in a second, strategized mobocracy riots. Strategized empowered violence as tactic. John Phillips is going to give a Valentine to TracI Park, who did nothing and said nothing, as our community right here turned into the genesis of those meth encampments right on Westminster Plaza. The Waldorf Hotel, now the Venice V Hotel, where I'm sure the Chamber of Commerce and would like to go to that stunning penthouse and maybe invite John and Randy for drinks with Soul Dad and Tracy, because that building was rehabbed with stolen money. Felon Carl Lambert buildings 1, 2, 3, 4, along with Crack House Jack Hoffman Broker, Market Street, Snapchat, Market Street. RINO Radio loves the Silicon Needle Beach. They're not going to tell you that the Google building's right here, that the Rand building's right here. Let's get back to Drug House Becky Dennison, Minnesota activist. Also from Minnesota, by the way, Jamie Page, who came to the Venice Neighborhood Council, that stakeholder sewer of corruption, where you can catch the eye of the big money and, suddenly be a journalist or a writer or a press secretary or something with no legitimate resume. And you can censor somebody who does, but I don't feature that or promote that because as a songwriter, I just want the songs. I just want to respect the songs and what it takes to get them to the folks. But I've been published several dozens of times by national magazines. There's a staff news reporter too, which is very different kind of writing. And it's very responsible. And you actually do have a senior editor with a name and an address and a phone number. And she actually does have a staff with names and addresses and phone numbers of fact checkers that are real, not phantoms, taking you down, banning, restricting. As from the bleachers, you get the gang stalking, gaslighting, the TracI Park, and now RINO Radio is very much a part of. And Katie Grimes is going to have to take responsibility for that too, because I'm a citizen, not a subject. And those people who have courageously reported those Project Rape Key sexual assaults and the people that tried to help them, which were no women in Venice resistance, which were no Sonny Bach, Jamie Page, Robin Murez, women. But I digress because it's upsetting, because we do know the names, and we know the names of the dead, like my friend John. We know that there's no outreach with Venice Neighborhood Council, and that it's all crap. It's all Whoopi Goldberg. Tax-exempt millions back to drug house Becky Dennison in Eric Garcetti's inner circle, her co-founder with BLMLA's L.A. Can and Lane, Pete White, associated directly with Liberty Hill Foundation, Abby Sher, this white private developer, dilettante property pimp, many more Harrises. The brutality that this ends up in the streets, and that's the private developers that fund the TracI Park, bought in with hundreds of thousands of dollars to create an identity. Where was she when the cops needed support? Because Becky Dennison knows that you barrage them with hundreds, then thousands of demeaning, vicious lies about them being assassins and everything else. And there's no one to counter that. And TracI Park was quiet. She's quiet through everything until she got a few $100,000, and John Phillips is pretending like, oh, at great personal cost, the sacrifice you're making. You're a citizen who stepped up. Rise and Health Action Coalition is a citizen who stepped up and needs the voice through LaFoy, through myself, through others that you're going to hear from and see, including those no longer with us. Represent this massive quid pro quo poverty pimp fraud. Now they want to do the UCLA games, these Disney pedophile protection racket poverty pimps, these dirty Roger Mahoney RINO Radio people. So they're not going to tell you about Project Rape Key. They're not going to tell you about the serial sexual assaults in drug house Becky Dennison. They're not going to tell you that spy sexual predators on youth, not safe place for youth, and TracI Park's not going to tell them that either. That we see the victims and we see the bodies, and we've done a significant amount of the accounting. And it's really heartbreaking, you know, because we count on having some kind of voice after being blacklisted, restricted, having the news years ago. 600,000 views, Stan Becker Song's characters directly concerned about this. Marta Every and these poverty pimp circle, they endangered you on purpose. And ruination is the result of responsible parties that manned up. And the earthquake in '94 brought the only portable actual lighting to Santa Monica Hospital. Before it was the UCLA poverty pimp. Okay, Randy wants to talk about those games. They don't want to tell you about the patient drops. They don't want to tell you about the prison drops. They want to tell you about the experiments that go on. And Daryl's, did he have 5 or 6 or 8 or 12 brain surgeries before they brought him back on a gurney? And he was dead 8 hours later because they didn't want him to die in the hospital. That's UCLA. And then sending their Luskin people there, and then sending you to their first-year psychiatrists to lace a humongous cumulative population with viciously violence-inducing drugs that are impossible to get off without help, and these new psychiatrists have no idea. But their managers, like Nilsa Gallardo, have an idea. And they disable people purposefully and make money out of it, all the way to those end-of-the-life benefits. TracI Park, what a hero. John Phillips, Randy Wang, RINO Radio, the problem, not the solution.
Last question before you go. The state of California lost a congressional seat in the last census, and according to reports that have come out recently, it seems like the number of people who have moved out of state, and even from places like Los Angeles to other locations within the state,
That's Johnny
has
don't like
accelerated
Phillips.
in recent months. Do you fear that
Disney
if we don't
pedophile
do things
protection,
like get
RINO
MTA
Radio poverty
under
pimp,
control and bring back
making
public
sure
safety to the buses and trains,
continues to
that
be
will continue?
dangerous for women and vulnerable people in Venice?
Folks here in California and in
Ask
our
her about
city
Brad
are
Neal,
facing a
the elite
multitude of issues, including the homelessness crisis,
drug dealer, drug addict, the elite one,
and including affordability issues
shooting
that are,
deaths,
frankly, driving them out of our communities. And unless and until we fix those fundamental problems, we are not going to be the modern, thriving, growing city and state that we should.
All right. So, you know, Valicia Adams Kellum from St. Joseph's Project Rape Kit, reported about for years on Horizon Health Action Coalition, my extemporaneous, often traumatized, kind of embarrassing because I'd like to have a shower and a shave. Never mind makeup and lighting and cosmetic surgery like you news person or whatever. I'm a certified boogaloo master, so for my shine, my light is from the inside out. I want to bring it to people. It's very fascinating to me how much money has been spent to stop my songs, which have no profanity and no nudity. I guess maybe that's the problem with Mark Zuckerberg and his hundreds of millions of dollars to these pervert candidates or candidates that, pervert candidates. Jeffrey Epstein, Clinton, Obama, Biden, Alec Baldwin Foundation. Now, I've threatened no one, Elon. I get reported all the time, but YouTube, to their credit, through Google, has written me back about Mean and Restless because they took it down. I'm poor and I'm in a car and I'm answering with art and with music. And, I'm further beaten and battered and ruined for that. So, I'm one of the very lucky ones. One of the extremely lucky ones. Although it's a narrow path. But I'm still inside of this body, and there, Daryl isn't, and Keith isn't, and Christopher isn't, and several others in Horizon Apartment. And when TracI Park appeared out of nowhere, I wrote a very respectful letter, one more time on the defensive, one more time, knowing they had shitted up my record in every which way. Criminals, Steve Clare, limited liability, poverty pimp criminals, the entire administration at Venice Community Housing Corporation, the entire administration is gone. The upper administration is gone. Steve Clare, Becky Dennison, the owners, until it's a hotel proper, and they have to pretend that's a Section 8. Stop pretending it's a Section 8 anything except a vacuum suck. The federal funds. And Becky's going to give cultural humility lessons to our children with Sidney Zamora there and Pedro the pervert. Gary Stewart's public suicide during my retaliatory eviction. He's a Liberty Hill Foundation and hard left liberal. Do you know, at RINO Records, take a look at my resume. Take a look at the volunteer work I did on the Iran-Contra documentary and the Nicaragua documentary. One of them won an Oscar for Barbara Trent and David Caspar. Do you know, I cared, and I didn't hesitate for a second when the targets were criminals that had an association in the Republican right. So this isn't really about politics, it's about abuse. But John Phillips is about politics, and he's about his job, and I understand that. But my job is not putting him in danger. My job is not putting a smoke screen behind the blood curtain and making a heroine about a homeless industrial complex censorious thug, a poverty pimp thug, because that's what a censor does. A censor is. A censor is a criminal thug, not just intellectually and spiritually, but criminally. And that would expand into Chief Michael Moore, also in Garcetti's inner circle. In fact, a creation of Garcetti. He was retired and he came back, you know, we had $1.75 billion payout or something, and then he came back to another one of these rich, several hundreds of thousands of dollars a year job. So let's just look at the salary of 1 year with Felicia Adams Kellum, Drug House Becky Dennison, John Sharon, okay? The top professionals, the hard left liberal, the people that John Phillips would go, oh, these are our TracI Park people who care. Just one of them. My minimum Social Security disability. I'm 71, I'd have to get 45 years of checks to get what Felicia gets in a 10 months year. And because of my background in the media and other background, just as an experienced person who's been here a long time, personally knows these criminals, knows their games. Don't you find it curious that one health professional or one lawyer or one conservative or Republican lawyer or healthcare professional or conservative would want to just ask a question, would want to just unpack? Gee, you saw Gary Stewart called an emergency meeting with you just a few days before he killed himself. And he knew you for 36 years. And he didn't go to Richard Fuss, the big Liberty Hills Foundation tax-exempt liar, and all these traditional ghettoizers. He came to you, he did. What did he say? How did he look? He was very well loved. And deservedly so. And do you find it curious? Not one person would ask. I would assume that they know, but there'd be a lot of gossip and a lot of a smoke screen. Stan Becker Songs, YouTube. Good God Almighty, thank you for 300,000 views. Before that was Mockingbird Sings. Prescient silent film director, German silent film director Fritz Lang's Metropolis. I didn't know how to make a video, but I'd been injured and I needed to try to start to communicate and tie things together. For people that were ready to receive a lot of scattered information and then some very direct information. Almost a bibliography in that quote-unquote music video with PBS's Poverty, Politics, and Profits documentary stills and commentary. So John Phillips is a joke, a bad, sad joke that hurts the culture because there's no excuse for not shooting inside the tent and keeping that little media elite circle of starlets into makeup and lights and bullshit, because not one of them would come and walk here. You know, even the demonic United Nations has some decent people. They sent Lalani here. It wasn't Lalani, I'm sorry. Not Layla, but there's so many people I have to keep track of. And Mean and Restless building back a better new normal. So much money is meant to stop my voice, to stop my songs. I'm really proud of myself. Yeah. So there was a street tag Grammy. Somebody told me about hashtags. I don't know about anything. I was born in the other century. I have an internal process. I don't want to carry around these damn things anymore, these weapons. But everything that you called a conspiracy theory is way, way true. And I wasn't even overt about all that stuff on the web. I didn't even make a comment when Hillary Clinton ran against Donald Trump. I was in shock. I was still a Democrat, but about to bail. I didn't know anything about Trump, but I knew that what Hillary represented wasn't the JFK Democrat Party. My dad, born in Nazi Poland for an active combat in World War II under that flag. TracI Park did nothing. She said nothing when our police were under attack. She made things more difficult. She could have saved lives. She could have stopped rapes. Go look at Horizon Health Action Coalition. Look at the most popular, but also look at the newest and the oldest and skim them. It's way too much. I can't get to my computer. I can't distill them. I can't edit them. But there's a tremendous amount of stuff we have. And it's important that it come out. Because these little committees and this predation protocol that takes territory and treasure very successfully and then has conservative radio fawning over this very same Meth Mike Bonin names he wouldn't even mention at this point. He's such a slick liar. I'm glad Larry O'Connor was tossed, but it breaks my heart because I didn't even know about conservative radio till after I was injured and driving through Oregon, just trying to get to a rural woods, which I did to heal from concussions. Because to try to go through UCLA managed Medicare when you're in their trap and they're doing patient drops on your building and experimenting about it. God knows how many times on Daryl's brain to graduate how many students and then how many first-year psychiatrists just prescribe how many antipsychotics and anti-schizophrenics and tranquilizing drugs and how many different classifications to the same person and how many people with what histories and how many of them crash or crash on somebody else and how many of them were never even medicated or asked not to be medicated. John Phillips, you have some hell of a nerve. Those women were just as good as you. They were decent people. They were more decent because they weren't taking money to lie and put other people in danger. They were risking their own lives to get other people out of danger. And the larger benefit to the community, which doesn't care, is that it would have given some foundational accountability on those hundreds of millions to billions that were lost, and Randy knows that HHH money is all gone. Newsom gave it to Jerry Brown. Dirty judges all over the place. Gascon couldn't be more dirty, they know it. TracI Park is just every bit as dirty. And so is RINO Radio, and it's heartbreaking. Because I found Dana Loesch in Oregon. Somehow I thought like she was from Oregon. Like, oh my God, this woman is so powerful. She's so strong. She has such a willingness to do critical analyses and confront an argument from different standpoints, but to be very, very firm about the responsibilities of citizenry as opposed to being a subject. And she's a revelation to me now as I find out more. I find out she's, goes back a long time, and she knew Andrew, and I knew somebody who's hard left who knew Andrew, and, I guess maybe she knew Larry back in the day, so I don't know how polluted the RINO thing is. I don't know if there are any independent thinkers that really want to step out of that, celebrity, big money, and tell the truth. Not for the sake of human rights, which they don't care about, or the sake of women not getting raped, which they don't care about unless it's their daughter or their wife or their kid or themselves or their mom. Let me tell you, Venice Neighborhood Council, Venice Family Clinic, Whoopi Goldberg, for all your money. When John was killed, he died a week later after that, being attacked from behind, that violence. He was wondering where his little dog was that whole time. Gloria, locals knew him for a long time. He's a beautiful man. So not only is there no triage for the sexual assault victims, and there are plenty of them, because that's part of the hierarchical prison mentality, control. It has been forever in war. And you go to one of these TracI Park, Drug House, Becky Dennison, Felicia Adams Killam, Karen Bass, shindigs. And Becky will stand there and tell you with tax money, with your tax money, destroying your police over time. Well, Tracy keeps her mouth shut and it's still shut. And now pretend to be the law enforcement candidate. But you need a psychologically manipulated and beat down, dumbed down, selfish, reactionary, stupid population. No problem. Stand Becker Songs, YouTube. Horizon Health Action Coalition, YouTube and Facebook. God bless you. Send a copter. I need to get in the studio. I need to work. I need to get out of this car. I need a business manager. Maybe a wife if she's tough. For the ex-military. Has to be sanctified. Actually, all superheroes are single, I've been told. So, back to the war. That John Phillips has not had to fight one night.